All right, all right. We're back. We are back for another installment of High and Mighty Thoughts with me, the intellectual Newton Menkares. I got on my super dad shirt today because I had to be a super dad today. I had to run behind my daughters and everything. And no, my office is still undone. Still, I finally got the contractor. Somebody's gonna come in and do the paneling in my office because where I live at, we're in a semi-rural area where I live, and it's hard to get workmen and things out here that's gonna do a good job at a good price. I already know what a good price is. So yeah, and I like I said, I just decided not too long ago on white walls for my room. I was gonna go with a different color, but you know darker colors make the room look smaller. My wives pointed out to me that darker colors will make a room look smaller. So you know, so we ain't gonna do the darker color. We're gonna instead do the white. All right, picking out my hair a little bit, picking out the natural. I got my hair cut fresh the other week, and I didn't get a chance to pick out the natural. Gotta get a touch up, but we here. We here. This is High and Mighty Thoughts with me, the intellectual Newton Menkares. Before we start off on everything, in the name of Amen, the Supreme, the All Powerful, the one and only true Lord. And Amen we trust, and Amen we thank, and in Amen we continue forward forever. So now I'm going to attack this topic. I'm going to start off, get right into the topic of this, and I'm going to touch on a bunch of other things. You know how we do, right? This term black, I want to talk about. Being that our people come in so many different shades and complexions, our people come in so many different shades and complexions throughout the spectrum, from the lightest to the light to the darkest to the dark, and everything in between, all shades of bronze. It is highly insulting and highly limiting for us to call ourselves black people. It is highly insulting and highly limiting to call ourselves black people. When I told you the dumbest thing I heard is somebody say a light skinned black person, a dark skinned black person, a brownish skinned black person. And again, for all the rich tones and shades that we have as an indigenous people here in America, we should not be calling ourselves black people. That is a name that came from the government. Black is a name, a classification that comes from the government, just like white does. Now, I want you to try to think about why it is that all of these pro-black YouTubers and these guys out here who are still teaching in the name of blackness, why haven't they come to this conclusion that we, as an American indigenous people, not from Africa, right? And then I'm going to show you something funny. The term black people does not apply to the Africans. The term black people was created here in America for our people, the American indigenous people, to hide who we really are, right? Please forgive me if I'm not in the chat. My wives didn't set up the chat. They had to run out and do something. And I told you I'm not technical with all this chat stuff and everything. I just talk and I'll see what comes up afterwards. So I'll worry about that then. But back to what I was saying, that term black was meant to hide who we are as the American indigenous people, as the indigenous Americans of this land, the real owners, the real original people of this land. We are the original Americans. The original Americans are still here. The original Americans meaning us, who are the descendants of the Olmec, the Aztec, the Inca, the Mayan. The real Americans. Even the word American comes from us. We have to stop acting like American is a foreign word to us. We got to stop acting like America is a foreign country or even a foreign continent, as in North America. We have to stop acting like this is foreign to us. We got to stop this nonsense about we came from someplace else. We did not come from any place else. We do not, as American indigenous people, have any origins in Africa. I'm starting to hear Tariq Nasheed now all of a sudden starting to talk more and more about us being indigenous, but then he's still doubling down on this. We from Africa, all life started in Africa. I would like to ask Tariq Nasheed where he get this from. Where did this nonsense, this lie come from that life started in Africa? I'm gonna get into that in a second. Let me just keep doubling down on this because I'm gonna get into this in a second about the so-called civilization starting in Africa. All right. I'm going to just just point to logical and rational things, how you know that's not true. But anyway, so onto the black thing, we come in too many different rich shades. We got too many beautiful women and men in our race to be calling ourselves black people. Again, that is a title that was meant to be insulting to the indigenous people, the indigenous Americans of this land. That was meant to be an insult to our people. Now, when white people call themselves white, for the most part, they only use that title as a term of immigrant. A lot of our people are too ignorant to understand that white is not even a real race. There's no such thing as a white race. No such thing, just like there's no such thing as a black race. That's all cap. That's all illusion. That's delusional talk. There's no white-skinned people. And there's no black-skinned people. You got people who dark, but again, they're going to see shades of brown or bronze in our skin before there's any black. Like I said, you might have people who have really super dark skin, but that's, in relation to the millions and billions of people that got bronze or brownish skin, that's an insult. That's an insult. Again, it was meant to be an insult to our people to call us black, Negro, African American. Calling us anything other than American indigenous people is an insult. Because the American indigenous people, the so-called American Indians, are still here. And they look like me. And they look like all of you who are so-called black people, African American, you see. And I'm talking about the people who family go back to slavery here in the society, or even people who are, still connected, whose family was taken out of America into parts of Africa, you see. Because you still got a whole lot of boneheads out here who believe the African slave trade story. You still got a lot of boneheads out here who believe the African slave trade story, that they put millions of us, or hundreds of us, or thousands of us on boats with no motors, nothing, and we just coasted by wind into America. You got people that believe that they had us clamped down and we couldn't just do nothing. We was just so weak. Now, here's the funny thing about that. You're going to tell me that everybody that's so-called black here who was classified as black, everybody came here on slave ships? That's not true. That's just not true. They didn't have any cargo slave ships till 1850, so they didn't have the transport or the motors of things to take us across the Atlantic, which is damn near impossible to get people to. You think they're going to keep doing that just to bring people in here to pick cotton? Again, I need y'all to put your thinking caps on. You need to put on your thinking caps. Why would they bring all these people and risk people dying on ships and things like that? No motors, no engines, and people getting sick just for people to come and pick cotton, people who don't even speak the language. I told y'all, do this make sense? See, forget the lies that you used to hearing. Does this make sense? Does it make sense that we came over on slave ships? Does it make sense to call us black people when our skin is not black? We're going with logic here. We're gonna override the things we learn, because we got to unlearn a lot of things we learned here today if we're going to go forward as a people. And again, I'm speaking to my intelligent people, my thinkers, my bright people out there. I'm not speaking to the believers who are, oh, we black, my skin is black. And you looking at it, then you put black next to their skin like this. You put black next to their skin, right? Put black next to their skin, and that's a black magnifying glass I got. Black, and this don't match with my skin. So how am I a black person? These two don't match. They don't match. Now the copper color, I wish I had a penny here. The description of the American indigenous people, the copper colored people, right? Which I don't have a penny near me. That matches our skin. Now again, why would they call us black people? Answer: to hide the fact that it's still known that the real American indigenous people of this land, the so-called Indians, are our people. And that we are in the description as the copper-colored races that inhabited this land before the coming of the Europeans, the original Americans. Now the Europeans are wearing our name, calling themselves American. And that's illegitimate. Now, I told you before, white people are not Americans. Asians are not Americans. Just because you force yourself over into a country, the indigenous people are still here. The real people, the original Americans, are still here. And that's us. That's us. And a lot of y'all still, they got you running over to Africa, calling yourself black. You calling yourself black, and again becoming all these beautiful shades and whatnot. It sounds more right than call us those copper-colored races or those bronze people, which is what we are. We different shades of bronze or copper. That's why I refer to us as bronze people and not black people. We're different shades of bronze, and we shouldn't be letting nobody tell us who we are anyway. We shouldn't be letting no white people and the other races of people, Asian, whatever. We should not be letting nobody tell us who the hell we are. When the last time you can point to any so-called black person out here, so-called American, African American, whatever you calling yourself, when the last time can you point to somebody that looks like us to say, yo, this is who we are. This is what we are as a people. When was the last time you heard that? We already know African American, even though Jesse Jackson said it, that didn't come from Jesse Jackson. That came from his Caucasian handlers. So African American, even if Jesse Jackson said African American, who the hell is he to decide who we're going to be as a people, how we're going to be marked down? How is it that Jesse Jackson, a reverend, right? A reverend, not no politician, not nobody. He didn't take no poll to see how our people felt about being called African American, because prior to like 1988, we didn't use that term African American. I know a lot of you millennials don't know that because you grew up listening to us calling ourselves African American. Y'all might be 19, 20, 25 years old, whatever. And that's way before, way after 1988, when Jesse Jackson came up in here with this African American nonsense, because they were trying to put an end to this idea. They've been trying to stomp out the truth. This government has been trying to stomp out the truth that the real American Indians are us and that we didn't come from any Africa. But see, it makes the job even harder, because I heard Tariq Nasheed up here, and I was going to play a clip of something he said where he's like, he's going back and forth to my, now he's on the fence now. And I'm going to just say, Tariq Nasheed been taking stuff from my channel. I'm going to just say, I've seen stuff come out my mouth that come out his mouth all of a sudden. Like really detailed things that I explained to y'all. I'm starting to hear it. And even the use of the word degenerate is coming a lot out of his mouth. But again, no shots at him. You know, more power to you, you know, whatever. But you are confusing people at the same time. You say that, you know, first he was kind of pressed to say that American, so-called American black people, our people are indigenous. Now it's like, oh, some of our people are indigenous, but we all still go back to Africa. All life started in Africa. Well, I would like to ask Tariq Nasheed to prove that. Prove that. I would like to ask him and all these pro-blacks and these Pan-Africanists that claim that all life started in Africa and Africa is the cradle of civilization, which I'm about to come up on now. Africa is not the cradle of civilization. It is not. Because you can't point to any African civilizations that are older than maybe 1,000 years, if that. You can't really point to that. You can't really point to any real old African civilizations, but you can point to a bunch of American indigenous civilizations that are way older than African civilizations. And those are our people who built these civilizations, from the Olmecs, the Aztecs, the Inca, the Maya. Now Tariq Nasheed just talking about the Olmecs. You see, because he's still going off of that line, that Caucasian lie that all life started in Africa. Again, for you so-called science people and you people that just like to repeat what white people saying just because, and you can't logically state that we all come from the same origins. That's a lie. That is a lie. You look at us and look at everybody else. You look at the so-called black race. I'm saying so-called. You look at the so-called black race and you look at everybody else. Do we look like we come from the same place? Do we look like we come from the same origins? I mean, just keep it real. Yes or no? Look at us and look at them. Do we look like we come from the same place? Now you got a better argument saying that all human life, because I said we're not part of the human race, we're a whole nother species. I already, logically showed that to be true. But logically, you can see the relation between the Caucasians, the Asians. Looking from the word Asian to Caucasian, you could tell the Asians came first, the Asiatic people, and then the Caucasians came out of them. You could tell that the Caucasians came out of the Asians. So who came first? Your East Indians, the darkest people, or the people who you call East Indians or Hindus, those are the first humans on Earth. And then out of them came your Asians and your Caucasians, all these other lesser races of people within the human race. All the other lesser races within the human race. They all got the same straight like animal fur that they call hair. They all got the same thing, right? They all got the same, look to them. You can see where they evolved out of each other, where they are interconnected as a race. You can see where the Asians, the Caucasians, the people with the Arabs, all the people with the straight animal fur, their hair, which is not hair, is fur. It gives you their genetic marker right there, lets you know where they come from, what's in them, who they are. So yeah, you can say that their life started in what's called Africa. Reason being is because Africa, Europe, and Asia are really just one continent. I said this before in one of my videos. Africa, Asia, and Europe is really just one continent. Okay. Why I said it? Because in order for a place to be considered a continent, you have to have a body of water between these places. There's really no body of water between these places. You can literally go from Africa from Africa into Asia and into Europe, and you go by land. You could travel by land to these places. There's no break. Unlike us in America, we're way across the other side of the planet, and there's plenty of water between us. That's what makes us a separate continent from them. So if you want to say life started with them in those places, on those earthbound black people, if you want to say that's their origin and that civilization, because I said this before on my broadcast the other night, I said, ain't nobody civilized us. We was already civilized. Nobody civilized us. They gonna set this lie that the white man civilized our people. Ain't no white people civilized our people. More like the other way around. We wasn't walking around with fleas and ticks in our hair and lice on us. We wasn't walking around spreading disease. You ain't heard of no disease that was spread amongst the indigenous people. You ain't heard about no people cannibalizing on each other and stuff like that. You ain't heard about our people having no plagues in America before the so-called white man came with the damn smallpox and the blankets, his diseases. We didn't have any plagues here. We didn't have cancer. There was no such thing as that. We didn't have these things here as the American indigenous people. They want to tell that lie that they wiped out all the indigenous people with smallpox and the blankets. That's a lie, man. They might have killed off some people, but they didn't wipe out everybody. Some people died off, but again, people die every day. People are born every day. You really think that this civilization of the Olmecs, the Aztec, the Inca, the Maya, millions of people who were all over America, who was always here in America, you really think they just perished? And then forget about it in South America, our people all over the place in Brazil, Colombia, they always, even in places like Cuba, our people are all over the place. These are indigenous people. These are not people from Africa. They want to keep on with this, we came from Africa nonsense. But then when it comes to so-called white man, they get amnesia about where they come from in Europe. But yet they want to call themselves American. How is it that they don't get to call themselves European American, but we supposed to be African American? We don't get to say, we don't identify with African. And in fact, we're not African at all. We are the American indigenous people. But again, you're not going to hear too many people stand up for that. Why? Because it's even though it's becoming popular and the whole African thing is burning out, is making its way off of the scene, even though that is really what's happening, we still got a lot of a contingent of our people who's still on this African nonsense. Okay? We still got a contingency of our people who are on this African nonsense. And because they're on this African nonsense, they are out here misleading the people. They still out here pushing this lie that all life started in Africa. Africa is the cradle of civilization. Okay, so then what happened to the civilizations there? If Africa is the cradle of civilization, what happened to the civilizations there? Why are there no more civilizations? The civilization of here in America, with the foundation of the civilizations here in America, which we have today, comes from the indigenous people and what they was doing, meaning our people. So, and it shows that because you think about it, popular culture is based on us. American pop culture is really based on us, the indigenous people, our music, our dance, our haircuts, like this. It's our haircut. You see how the white man tried to change it into a Caucasian haircut. He was trying to name it after the Caucasian dude, the football player Travis Kelso, whatever his name is. That's a Travis Kelso cut. So they always try to take credit for and become our people. They did that when they pushed us out, when they wanted to push out the American Indians, and they white man want to become a Native American now. He want to be American now. He want to forget about where he come from. He telling you, you African, you ain't really from here. You don't know no damn history, man. Except the stories that he tell you. He don't teach history. He tells you what history is. Because again, they ignore so much things in history. They ignore the truth that's in history. You see, they ignore it. These are people who could sit up here, and again, I blame our people for it, because you got a lot of sellouts amongst our people who go along with the narrative to mislead our people, to lie to our people, to tell our people that they black-skinned people, to tell them that they African Americans, to tell them that they Negroes and all this other stuff. So many people go with the narrative. So many people go with the narrative. You see. So we have to break the stereotype, break the lies and things like that amongst our people, because again, if we sit up here and we let people dictate to us who we are, dictate to us who we're going to become, they control our future, they control our tomorrow. You see, they control our future and they control our tomorrow. We can't have that. We can't have that for the sake of our children, because you see what happens when so-called black children are misled. They don't know where they come from, who they are, so they don't know where they're going. And you got people up here still talking about some African slave trade. In 2024, you still buying into the African slave trade, or you buying into the all life started in Africa BS? Tariq Nasheed, you out here confusing people, man. You out here confusing people. Why is it so hard to accept the fact that we are just indigenous to America? American, we have no parts of Africa. Why? Because y'all bought into that lie that the white man tells these Caucasian scientists, tell you, bought into that lie that we all the same. Let me tell you why they really teach that nonsense, even though they don't even believe it. Because here's the thing. If they saying all life started in Africa, and meaning our life, or they say the cradle of civilization started in Africa, then why are they always teaching that they more civilized than our people? If the cradle of civilization started here, and I guess you're saying the people that started that civilization would be black people, because again, it's really funny with these racist scientists. A lot of these are Caucasians who teach that all life started in Africa. Then I guess they teach that they were more evolved and they left out of Africa and went to Europe and all this other stuff, and they became more evolved, which again doesn't match up to their history in Europe or their history when they came here into America, which was very savage, which was very degenerate, where these people were cannibalizing on each other here when they got into early America. That don't sound like civilized people to me. Now they saying the Caucasians supposed to be the most civilized and most intelligent people, but that don't sound like that to me. Okay? It don't sound like that to me, that these people are civilized. They act like anything other than civilized. So how are they the most advanced people if their history says otherwise? How are we the same? How are we the same when we don't even look the same? It's time for our people to start taking control of our own narrative, and we doing that as indigenous American people. We're not with the whole black thing, the African American thing, the FBA, foundational black American, because again, our skin is not black. Why are people sitting up here, Tariq Nasheed to Umar Johnson, why are they calling us black people? Why is that being done purposely? Because again, that is meant to be an insult to our people. Again, we're too rich. We're too rich. Mentally, we're too rich genetically to be tied down to being called black people. We're too extended as a people. We're too various in our looks as a people to be called black or African or anything else. You see, when the truth is staring us right in the face. All right. So I'm gonna change gears a little bit to this whole thing about voting and democracy and whatnot, and why are black people expected to vote and vote Democrat and participate in voting? Why are black people being expected to do this? Answer: because you need the indigenous people to be 10 toes down for their own subjugation. You see, of course, they want the indigenous people who they have renamed and reclassified as black people. They want the American Indians, the real American indigenous people, to classify as black people, and thus, and how you check the temperature of black people by constantly selling them a dream of nothing. As Democrats, black people get nothing in this society. So-called black people get nothing in this society. You got your tax money being given to illegals to elevate these people over you. You got your money being given to people in other countries, but here it is where you need help and you struggle and you can't get no help. But your money's tied up in the society being given to other people. Make that make sense to me. Everybody else can get help. People can get crime bills to protect them against hate crimes. You can't get that because you're a black people. You're a people who are considered to be absent. Black people are a people who are considered to be absent, and therefore you can invoke things like benign neglect on them. Y'all know what benign neglect is. Benign neglect is what these politicians do to so-called black people, the indigenous people. That's what they do when we need some help, financially through our communities and whatnot. They just say, okay, yeah, I understand, and they ignore you. But still vote for me. They ignore you. That's called benign neglect. In other words, just act like you sympathize, and all of them do that. I've seen them all do it, even down to Robert F. Kennedy, even down to this guy Kennedy. You see, they just sit up here and act like they sympathize, but they're not here to help you. Because I'm telling y'all this right now, the reason why they're not going to give black people reparations, so-called black people, because reparations are for people who are considered to be immigrants. In other words, this country is run by immigrants. Okay, this is not run by indigenous people. This country is run by immigrants, European immigrants, who are being called, falsely being called American, who are falsely being called white people. This country is run by European immigrants, and all they do is help out other immigrants, people from elsewhere. Don't y'all see that by now? When it comes to you, you can't get nothing because we indigenous. They're not trying to help the indigenous people. They want the indigenous populations destroyed. They want us destroyed. That's why they call us black people, because what does black represent? Black is symbolic of death. Black is symbolic of death. That's why they call you black people. They want to see our people destroyed. They want our people in darkness. They want our people in a state of death. That's why the police are allowed to do as I will with you, and they don't get in no trouble. This is why they'll let Caucasian males go into society. This ain't even no real law enforcement or no law enforcement community. This is a whole lot of BS because these people don't follow the law. They'll sit up here and catch white people in the act. If y'all haven't seen the writing on the wall with what happened with this guy, Governor Greg Abbott in Texas, the guy in the wheelchair, he let go of a dude who just straight up murdered people. He pardoned and let go of a guy who just straight up killed somebody and whatnot. Now, had it been a so-called black man, he'd be facing the death penalty, or he'd been in jail till he'll be getting football numbers, and he ain't never getting out of jail. But the governor of Texas, pardoned a murderer, pardoned a killer. Same judge that let go of this guy Kyle Rittenhouse, who killed somebody. But these are the same people who talk about crime, and because name mind, white people don't commit crime. Black people commit crime. So we need to lock up these niggas. Lock up these niggas, especially the men, because they mass produce too fast. They make babies too fast, and they're going to outpopulate our already shrinking population of Caucasians. So we got to lock up these niggas on whatever we can. Even if we got to set them up, we got to plant drugs on them, do whatever we got to do. This is the society you live in. You see, this is the society you live in, and this is who's currently in charge of the society. And like I said, it's our people to blame for this, because our people are not waking up, and too many of our people that look like us, who acting like they are people, really are not our people, and they're working against our best interests in our country. By sitting up here still calling ourselves black people, by sitting up here still believing that this nonsense that they brought us from some Africa, or that we have any connection with Africa, is holding us back from being who we are, and that is American, the original American, the indigenous American people. That's what we're supposed to be standing up for as a community, not no black nothing, because there's no such thing as a black community. Tariq Nasheed also says something very interesting. He says, he said in his live, he said, oh, he said there's no such thing, because somebody called him a black supremacist, and he said there's no such thing as black supremacy. I mean, he said there's no such. He said there's only white supremacy. There's no such thing as black supremacy. So my question is this: if there's no such thing, because again, I don't acknowledge black anyway, but he basically saying that, he's basically saying, can't talk now. I'm doing high mic. I'll call you back. All right, yeah, but he's basically saying that, white people are supreme. That's what he's saying. White people are supreme. Black people are not. So then now I ask the question, why I want to be connected to black people again? Why would I want to be connected to black people again if I have a so-called black person who's supposed to be, telling people he's not a leader to follow the code, and follow the code as the leader? What is the code for people who are not supreme? Because if you are not supreme, then that means you are lesser and lower than these people. You are lesser than lower than these people. They get to off the top to call themselves white supremacy, but then he turns around and calls them degenerates and stuff like that. So make that make sense. Are these people supreme or are they degenerate? Make up your mind. Are these people supreme or are they degenerate? You got to make your mind up. You can't say they're supreme in one breath and then you call them degenerate and say they got head lice and fleas and this, that, and the third, but they are supreme, huh? No, just because they're in a position right now and whatnot doesn't make people supreme. Positions don't make people supreme. Genetics make you supreme. We definitely got supreme genetics. We definitely got supreme look to ourselves genetic. We definitely got supreme mind, supreme by everything. If we utilize that collectively, we have a state of supremacy waiting for us to walk into. But you got a lot of people holding us back. Black is holding us back. Being black or being classified as black is holding us back from being American, being who we are as American indigenous people, as a supreme people, a bronze race of supreme people. That's holding us back. We need our own code to supremacy. We need our own code to righteousness. We need our own mindset when it comes to that as a collective. We don't need nobody telling us that we should talk about the system of white supremacy. And listen, they can believe whatever they want to believe. People believe that they supreme. You see, people can believe that they supreme, but reality says that you're not. Because what power do you have to be supreme? If your power is you can deprive me of this, you could deprive me of that, or that you could take from somebody, that's what makes you supreme, or you think you can hurt somebody, then that's not supremacy at all. That's not supremacy. That's people playing bullies and whatnot. A bully is not supreme. A bully is not supreme. Okay? So supremacy is more than just people telling you that they're supreme or using that terminology. They don't even use that for themselves. So we shouldn't be giving them that kind of energy. We shouldn't be calling no white people supreme or anybody over us supreme. We shouldn't be calling anybody over us supreme. Because again, supremacy starts in the mind and then makes its way through the body. Supremacy starts in the mind and then makes its way to the body. So if you got people from the outset saying that these people are supreme and that and we black people and there's no such thing as black supremacy, we not supreme. And so then that keeps us in this constant rotation going back and forth, because that's what people want to do. They want us going back and forth with black and white going back and forth. But I choose not to. The intelligent people, ones of our people, to choose not to take part in that. You see, our people are expected to vote in the voting system because the Democratic Party is opposite the mindset of the indigenous people. What do I mean by that? When the beast came setting up these political systems, if you notice, a lot of our people were known as Republicans. Our people were known as Republicans. You go back to the 40s and the 50s, so-called black Americans didn't start being Democrats until like after the 50s, going into the 60s, because the Republican Party was a party of people with wherewithal to upright people. The Republican Party was always shown as a conservative people, a well-to-do people, a people who, hardworking, nuclear family, father, mother, things like that. That's what the Republican Party stood for. The white people were originally Democrats. The Ku Klux Klan created well, I ain't gonna say create, but they were part of the Democratic Party, which started off as the Dixiecrats, then became the Democrats. So now, how you got so-called black people voting Democrat? And again, I'm not saying vote Republican. I don't care about the whole political thing. We shouldn't be participating in any of it because we don't get nothing out of it. So-called black Americans get nothing out of the political system, so they shouldn't be identifying with it at all. But my point is, if you would identify with anything, it would be Republican, because Republican fits our original mentality as Americans. We were the first conservatives because we had everything. We were the first people who were upright about family and things like that, values and whatnot, because, prior to us being made to become black here in the society, and following the whole Democratic Party, what does democracy stand for? It stands for this whole liberation of women, being out here, being loose, being whorish, right? It stands for that. It stands for women getting abortions. It stands for men being sodomites. You see all this stuff out here, alphabet people. It stands for all kinds of degeneracy. It stands for people sitting on the damn welfare system forever, not getting off. You see, so it basically is a party that pushes degeneracy. The Democratic Party pushes a lot of degeneracy, not to mention the fact that they're racist as hell. Whereas, I'm not saying the Republicans are not, but my point is the Republicans are more in alignment with our core values because we were the original, like I said, conservative people. We didn't just waste our money like how you do today. You see black people just waste money on nonsense. You see. Brag about being the biggest consumers and have nothing to show for it. Can't even afford a house to live in. Can't afford to pass down no kind of so-called generational wealth because, again, our people don't have a Republican mindset. We need to have a Republican mindset beyond just aligning ourselves with these Caucasians. You see, the handouts and things that are given through the Democratic Party, that's why they keep it going. See, they use our face to be the face of democracy, and then they give all of the handouts, welfare, all this stuff to other races of people, including white people. But then they'll turn around and say, "Oh yeah, you niggas, you get all the welfare." No, we don't. Black people don't. Americans, so-called black people, don't get no damn welfare like these Caucasians do. You got a whole town in Kentucky. It's called Housley or wherever it is, Housley, Kentucky, where everybody in the damn town on welfare. And they all 99% white. And that's not the only place. You got towns in upstate New York, Appalachian, Washington, they bummed out up there. There's no way you ain't gonna tell them they're not getting public assistance. But see, they need black people to be the face of the Democratic Party. That's why I said none of you so-called black people should not vote in the election, because you see, they only use black people as a shield to hide behind. In other words, our money is being siphoned out and given to other people in the welfare system. That's why our taxes is high, because ain't too many so-called black people I see that don't have a job. We gonna get a job because our people don't like being without things, without a roof over your head, without food in your stomach or clothes on your back. So our people gonna work or get money some kind of way. See, we are very practical and pragmatic people. Even at our lowest, even at our worst, we're gonna go and get a damn job. We're gonna go hustle or do something to get some money. You see, we ain't finna be laying up on the system like that. You see, but like I said, these other races of people are, but they still want to use us as the face of democracy, so that these other races, y'all follow what I'm saying? These other races can hide behind us and get all the welfare, the goodies, the handouts, the giveaways, like they give into these illegals. The illegals are being used to bleed our system, bleed the system. All the giveaways, all the money is being given to them. But when it comes to us, we can't get nothing. You see, I'm doing High and Mighty Thoughts. I'll call you back. You got the link? Yeah, I'm live. All right. So that our tax money, our so-called tax money, is going to these people. It's going to, that's a welfare system. They want to call it welfare when it was with us. But like I said, welfare was started for white people. It wasn't started for us. It was started for immigrant white people. And our people got on it like in the 60s and the 70s. But prior to that time, our people wasn't on that. You see, wasn't on no relief. Our people worked for everything. And you already know the government didn't want to give us a damn thing. All they wanted to do is take from us and make sure that we could barely get by. Because they didn't want us being a monetary power in the society. They wanted white people to be the people who were considered white in this country. They're the ones that was meant to get all the benefits, while we sit up here stuck and broke, living in projects, roaches and stuff like that. That's what they pushed us to. So the projects, the plantation, those were the reservations for us. That was the reservations. From the plantation to the projects to prison. The 3 P's: the plantation, the projects, and prison. That's what they do to the American indigenous people. And they give the so-called natives who are not native to America at all, the Mongolians from Asia, they give them all the reservations to live on, give them casinos and all this other stuff, because they helped in fighting against the indigenous people as they was taking our land. They was using a lot of these red Indians, so-called red Indians, to help catch our people and run our people down. You see, and they allowed them to own the American indigenous people that they caught. The beasts allowed them to own the real American Indians. They allowed them. You see, they allowed them. They had slaves and whatnot, or the people. Because, again, ask yourself the question: if these people are so indigenous, when the last time you heard about these Mongolian Indians who are supposed to be native to here? I've never seen a so-called Native American farmer. I've never seen Native American farmers. They had to be taught to farm land, just like the Caucasians. They had to be taught to farm the land. And who do you think was teaching them how to do it? In fact, they had put out a thing asking bronze people, because, again, we obviously wasn't just picking cotton, and you didn't see who was growing the crops on the land. Who was growing the crops? It couldn't have been the Europeans. And it couldn't have been the Mongolians, because they had our people all doing the same thing, doing farm work. We were doing farm work. They had our people all doing farm work. You see? Why would you have people supposedly from Africa doing all the farm work? Why would you have that? You see? Why would you do that? Answer: you do that because you were using the indigenous people who were already farming and growing on the land. Y'all don't put 2 and 2 together. We don't get treated like immigrants in this society, even though technically, if they say we from Africa, right, and they took us from Africa, aren't we the #1 immigrants here that deserve to get paid if that's the truth? If they say they took us from Africa on slave ships, they took us from our homeland and forced us to work and whatnot, and this is the narrative they want to tell, then shouldn't we be getting reparations and other things? Of course we should, but they're not going to do that, because they know that the truth is we didn't come from Africa. We was already here. They just took advantage of the indigenous people and forced them to work, forced them off their land. I told you how it worked, and if you listen to how I explain it, how the Europeans came here and saw the indigenous people living on the land, working on the land. There was no government. You know what I'm saying? It was just people living in different sections all over the country, different tribes and groups that occupied the space. There was no government. Then the white man came and saw that there was some sort of working body amongst the indigenous tribes, and that's what he based his whole thing on. This is what he based his whole U.S. government on, you see, on the indigenous people. You see, again, it's too many questions. There's too many questions. There's too many things that are not answered correctly. My daughters. Man, what's going on? Oh, thank you. Thank you, it's my daughters. Oh no, that's not mine. No, that's not mine. Okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Bring the bag back. Thank you. No, don't take nothing out. Don't just take the bag. Don't take nothing out. Okay. All right. Bye-bye, baby. Bye-bye. See you later. All right. So they were allowed to basically take advantage of the indigenous people, because once the so-called white man came and got up his numbers and got up enough guns and whatnot, because that's what gave them the ability to take over. They got together and they basically set up a government, and they got together and they basically started running our people off the land and giving it to Europeans, Caucasians to come over, and that's what they set up the government on. You see? Okay. All right. I'm doing so. Why eyes are puffy? Allergic reaction. To what? Okay. Wasn't that bad? All right. Okay. Going out, but go on. All right. So that's what that always dad. All right. So that's how they just basically forced our people off the land, and our people didn't have no place to go, and so they were forced to be on the plantation and work. You know, a lot of times they were asked, a lot of times they were forced at gunpoint. You ain't going nowhere. You're going to work. Because the Europeans didn't know how to work the land. Every time they were given the land went under. They didn't know how to work the land. They needed the indigenous people to do it. That's how we fell into slavery. Why don't y'all tell the real damn truth? Ain't nobody take us from no Africa. Ain't nobody put us on no slaves. That's a damn lie. They lying. What happened was they just came and made the indigenous people work for them. That's all. Simple as that. That's more simple and more easier to accept and acknowledge as reality versus you put millions of people on slave ships with no boat, no motor, and you just sailed them across the Atlantic Ocean. That's a damn lie, man. Let them die and get sick just to pick cotton. They was doing a lot more than just picking cotton. They were growing crops. They were catching animals. They were doing all kinds of stuff that they were doing for each other. But what they was doing it for the Europeans that came in who didn't know how to do anything. They did not have a successful colony in America till Virginia and Jamestown. That's when the indigenous people, the indigenous Americans, the so-called black people, the copper-colored people helped them. They started going into bondage and indentured servitude and eventually became slavery and whatnot, because how you use that terminology of a slave labor, where they was working our people to death and giving them next to nothing because the beast did not want them to come out of slavery. They wanted them to stay there working for them so that they can continue to build up their empire. So that goes back to what I'm saying. They want our people to participate because, again, you need the indigenous people to go against themselves. You need the indigenous people to work against themselves. And that's what happens when you take part in these elections. You vote against yourself. You working to make sure you have nothing. You're voting for nothing. You're being ignored whenever they locking you up. Every time you turn around, they're locking you up. So it's just them tolerating our people, the indigenous people here, the European invaders, the Caucasians who calling themselves American, falsely calling themselves American with an illegitimate flag. That U.S. flag is illegitimate because it's not from the indigenous Americans. It's a foreign flag. And they want to act like we not here. We still here. But we being hidden in plain sight by calling ourselves black people. It's like Italian, French, German, Irish. When you get to the American, who the Americans? Now the white people are the Americans. And who are y'all? Y'all black people. So basically we wiped you out. We put a black line through y'all and y'all don't exist no more. We the Americans now. Look at the Merriam-Webster 1828 dictionary definition of American. That tell you everything. Just look it up. Look up American. That's all. Look up 1828 Merriam-Webster dictionary definition of American. That tell you everything, how our identity was stolen by these Europeans, by these Caucasian Europeans. Our American identity. All right. Is North America and South America and even Central America, are those supercontinents? Of course they are. That's why, again, what made them supercontinents is because of what was put here with our Olmec ancestors, Aztec, Inca, Maya. I'm talking about post colonization, European colonization, because this is nothing but European colonization. America has been colonized by Europeans, by white people. America has been colonized. But the original Americans are still here. The original American indigenous people are still here. The real Indians, the real American indigenous people are still here. And it's not the Native Americans. It's not any of these people. All those other people could be traced back to something else. And let me just say this while I'm on the subject. This nonsense of, I keep hearing these people push Ancestry.com, 23andMe, and all this other. It's a load of BS. They tell them that the answer is always going to be when so-called black people or black Americans send off your swab or your DNA. They always going to tell you that you're African. They're always going to tell you that you got some sub-Saharan African in you. You got some European somewhere in you. Anything other than indigenous. But what's indigenous? What do they consider indigenous genetic material? They consider that Mongolian and that Mongoloid genetic material American indigenous. They consider that. But how can that be when you trace back the oldest American, the oldest person in America was a so-called black woman? Black American woman. How is that? She wasn't from Africa. How is that so? She don't look Mongolian. The oldest person found here in America is a so-called black person. And then, she wasn't by herself. So she had a bunch of people, millions of people had to be around her. They mass produce, have children. So their children go on and so forth. So they're not even trying to concede to the fact that the original Americans are us. The original Americans are so-called black. They'd rather sit here and tell a lie and create a fake company like Ancestry.com and 23andMe to double down, because they only tell so-called black people that BS. Oh, y'all ain't American Indians, y'all ain't indigenous, y'all from sub-Saharan Africa. Some guy said he sent in he did a saliva. Some guy said he did a saliva thing on one of his lizards or something like that. They have spit too. They said that his lizard, the DNA from the spit from his lizard can be traced back to Nigeria, because they said that it was a so-called. He said he was a so-called black man in America. So they said that his saliva of his lizard can be traced back. I kid you not. I just saw this video. It could be traced back to Nigeria. They thought it was a so-called black man's saliva. That just goes to show you they're telling lies, man. You got to stop believing these people, man. One of the biggest lies they're going to tell is that we from Africa. We all the same. We all human. We all come from the same. That's a damn lie. You can clearly see that we're not the same. You can clearly see we look different from the Africans. You can clearly see there was a whole nother way of life going on that was separate from Africa, Europe, and Asia. We had that going on over here. We had a whole nother way of life going on over here. And these people left their homelands to come here and start trying to be us. You see, they got out that, here was a whole different race of people on the other side of the world, living their life, living their best life, living their greatest life, for people who were dressed well and eating well and had big homes and was working the land and things like that. That was our people, man. All you got to do is look at the mound cities in Illinois and Georgia. You got mound cities everywhere where people was living thousands of years ago. Our people was living there. The remains that were found in one of these so-called American Indian burial grounds was black people. So-called black Americans was found in those burial grounds. So my question is this: if we are not the real American indigenous people, the real American Indians, then why was our people's remains found in Indian burial grounds? Because prior to that time, the white man was referring to us as Indians and Injun. They was calling us nigger, Injun, all that was the same thing. They called our people these things. They didn't start with the African thing until like after the 1800s and going into the 1900s, start with the whole African thing. You see, to displace us from this continent. Because keep in mind, America was the best thing that ever happened to the so-called white man. America was the best thing that ever happened to him. That's why he ditched his European heritage and came over here and became American. He ditched his European, like they'll sit up here and say George Washington is American. No, he's not. He's English. He's European. George Washington, the so-called founding father, is not even from America. He made his name Washington more. He turned it more toward the American name Washita, which he took from the Washita Indians, which is a so-called black Indian tribe, bronze copper-colored tribes, the Washita. That's where he got his name from. They've been stealing from our people. They're thieves. They are a bunch of thieves. All right. Let me see. And I say this continent is a super continent because anything can grow here. Anything can grow here in America. And we send food out to other countries. Anything can grow here in America. You can plant anything here in America. You can't plant anything in Africa. You can't plant anything in Europe. Their soil is bad there. We got the richest soil on the planet here in America. This is the best part of the planet we on. And they got y'all up here talking about y'all Asiatic black men, or we Israel, we from Israel, or we from Africa or Egypt. We ain't from no place other than America. Knock that nonsense off. Knock off the nonsense that we from any place other than America. We have a long, rich, standing history and civilization here that has nothing to do with Africa. And I stand on that. So you miss me with the we all life started in Africa. That's some BS belief. That's really just some racial BS. So, because the white man always say, oh, yeah, we all from the same place. But look how ahead of us we are to you, because that's how you like to start the race out. Yes, your life started in Africa, but you blacks were primitive and us whites just shot up ahead of you and we just took over everything and set up everything. That's the lie they want to tell. That's the narrative they want to tell. That's why they talk that nonsense about all life started in Africa. And the white man, he gets to be the most advanced of the evolution out of Africa. He gets to be the most advanced. Give me a second. Right back. I'm about to end this soon. I'm just going to tap in and touch in with y'all before our Indigenous weekend. Give me a second. All right. And we are back. I feel good. I dropped this way. I feel so good. Y'all don't know. I have no idea. Like I said, I look at my success. I keep it going. So, you know, gotta keep going. I'm 53 years old. I gotta keep it moving. Feeling super today. All right. So back to what I was saying. We have to stand up as the original Americans, the real original Americans. We got to start standing up the intelligent ones of our people. You so-called black people, y'all keep on believing that you black. You could keep on believing that you came over on slave ships. You done drunk the Roots Kool-Aid. Y'all done drunk the Roots Kool-Aid, that lie Alex Haley told about Kunta Kinte. That's where a lot of y'all believe y'all African come from. That Roots that came out in '77, the miniseries, that was the biggest programming tool that was used on our people here in the Americas, man. You see. That's so I got a message for you. I call you the pro-black Power Rangers out there, you pro-blacks, those of you still left behind, you RBG Negroes. Listen, nothing has happened to us. Nothing good has happened to our people under the whole idea of being black. Nothing has happened. All that's happened is that we lost out on every and anything that was of any value. Notice our people started to go down in the 60s and the 70s. Once they accepted that whole black thing, our people started to go down more and more. You see. So you talk all the pro-black stuff you want and everything. There's always going to be a there's always going to be a big space that's occupied for people to start, undermining your whole black power thing. Again, you don't even have a lot of your black women that support that. A lot of your black women, they want to lay down with other races of people. They want to wear blonde hair. A lot of these black females want to jump ship when it comes to the so-called black race. They don't want to be with y'all, you so-called black men out here. That's why I laugh at you so-called black men when you sit up here and you spend all this time talking about these liberated females out here. I don't care what race they are. They all liberated. They all got this idea that they know what they're talking about when they ain't talking about nothing. It's always some degenerate, submissive, bow down to Caucasian degeneracy, or what you call white supremacy. That's really Caucasian degeneracy. You know what I'm saying? Because you got certain people who are not on that vibration. And again, I don't want it to be said that I'm racist against anybody. I'm racist against, if anything, if I'm going to be racist, I don't like people, within different races who, speak this whole degenerate behavior thing of racism and things like that. I don't like that. I have a gripe with, I have a certain, that's my daughter's in the background. My daughter's in the background making noise. Gotta hold it down. So keep that in mind, that we have this mindset of people, that is unbalanced when it comes to ourselves. You see, there's no balancement on ourselves. You see, there's no balancement on ourselves as a people. So we have this unbalanced mindset as a people. The balance is going to come when we realize who we are as American indigenous people, as the original Americans. So for all you pro-blacks out here who trying to double down on your blackness and whatnot, yeah, again, it's a losing battle because the world is not black. The future world is not black. The future world is not white. It is gray for the masses, but bright for a chosen few who will be in control. So uh, I think I touched on everything. Uh, let me see. I'm just checking everything. I'm about to end this off. My girls, they're out there being rowdy and whatnot. I don't know. Their mothers ain't keeping them quiet, so letting them come all into the office. That's fine. All right. I think I touched on everything. I just wanted to tap in, make this a brief one. Let me make sure I touched on everything I wanted to touch on. Yeah, I was watching this funny video with this black female. She had on a blonde wig on her head. I wish I could see. I could show y'all this, but ain't that the funny thing with the black females is wearing the blonde wigs. That's a sign that they don't jump ship with them coming to their people. She got on a blonde wig and she's saying that's a protective style on her head. She wore a blonde white woman's wig on her head, and she's saying that this is a protective style of black women. That's why they wear it. Okay, whatever. Uh, okay, let me just make sure I touched on everything that was on my mind. Oh, maybe I should save this for next time. But you know what? You know, I don't know how. I was going to give you my thoughts on this Diddy and Cassie thing, but maybe I might just wait until next week. I might open up with that because that's the latest thing that's y'all talking on it. And, I got some things to say about that whole Diddy and Cassie thing. So I mean, and all this nonsense they talking about out here because that I guess that Diddy thing will still be popular. I usually don't talk about things that's popular at the moment, but I guess it'll still be. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's about it. I think it's about it. Oh, one more thing I did this on the broadcast. Let me just touch on this. I asked a question, and before I close out, I said, if you ever notice in Black History Month, you don't never see three people that I thought would have been in Black History Month. It gave us something to look up to, inspire, to look up to. You never see the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You never see Mr. John H. Johnson, who started Ebony and Jet magazine. And you never see Mr. Berry Gordy, who started Motown Records. Now, all three of these men were successful bronze men, successful bronze indigenous American men, because they were American indigenous bronze men. They were successful bronze indigenous American men who made millions of dollars, based on their intelligence, their focus and things like that. Yet these men are not celebrated. I'm always seeing men that are celebrated who really didn't do nothing for our people, who really didn't move the needle for our people. Like, in other words, Elijah Muhammad did so much for Black people and just in general cleaning up so-called Black Americans and things like that and spreading his version of Islam, which was really Freemasonic version of Islam to the world to clean up Black people. So my thing, so-called Black people who even those who were influenced by it, who may not have joined the nation, that still makes a big impression. But my point of that is that this man is not mentioned in American so-called Black history, but Malcolm X is. Malcolm X was a student of Elijah Muhammad who basically turned on the Nation of Islam and went out there and started slandering Elijah Muhammad. And then it's funny, after that, he became an icon, right? He didn't ever actually do anything but make a bunch of speeches. And most of the speeches you liked Malcolm X for, that's when he was with the Nation of Islam. When he faded out of the Nation of Islam, like I said, he really wasn't talking about nothing. Again, he wasn't out here. He didn't have no people out here behind him doing anything. That's why he was able to get killed like he got killed. You see, when he had the nation behind him, he had a powerful force of people behind him who were standing up for him. But he decided to, fly the other way, and he became an icon in death. But he also in life became a one who undermined the progress of our people, because Elijah Muhammad was making progress with our people, a lot of progress. Mr. John H. Johnson, who built Ebony and Jet magazine, a successful publishing company, Johnson Publications, he should definitely be honored, because Ebony and Jet stayed in my house when I was coming up. Now Jet is gone and somebody bought Ebony. And from what I hear, it's a lot of degenerate things in Ebony now. I don't read Ebony anymore since Mr. John H. Johnson passed on. And Mr. Berry Gordy, who built Motown and changed the world and the world of music and made music for young Americans. So, for young America, he said. So, and he made a fortune being independent and doing it. Why don't we know about these men in Black History Month? How come we don't know Mr. Berry Gordy is still alive today? He built a successful independent record company which had his own distribution and everything. Why do we never talk about these people? Why? Because they want so-called Black people, the people that control your icons. I don't call them icons, I call them icons. The people that control the icons, that tell you that it's going to be Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Frederick Douglass, all a bunch of sellouts, by the way. Bunch of sellouts, right? Because they don't want successful people to be the focus of Black people, so-called Black people. They want Black people who failed, Black people who were sellouts and bootlicks and ass kisses for the system of white degeneracy. They want those people up there. They want those people up there. They want people who's begging for civil rights, begging for seats on buses, things like that. Not people that said, to hell with this, we just going to go over here and build our own thing, and the hell with you. No, that's the people we need to be celebrating. People who tuned in and tuned out of this society and the system and tuned into working to fix the problems of our people. And again, that's why I see that Black people don't acknowledge them, because the Boule people that control that whole Black History Month, which was started by Carter G. Woodson, who started off with Black History Week, or whatever, Negro history, whatever the hell they was calling our people. This is where their mindset is. They want our people constantly in a rotation of darkness, moving to nowhere. All right. And that's it. I don't got nothing else. I don't like staying on any longer than I have to. Check out my last one I did. Are Black people really a part of the human race? That one was good. That was the last one I did. I'll be back to do something else. I'm going to close out in the name of Amen, by the power of Amen. Amen we trust, and Amen we thank, and Amen we continue forward. Go down, hit the link below. Subscribe. I don't want any money. I'm going to say this right now. I don't want anybody to give me any money. Now, I don't want, I'm not asking anybody to hit the Cash App or give me any money or anything. What you can do, you can subscribe to my mentellect Patreon channel. Only $15 a month to hear the most realest and rawest things that I can't talk about on YouTube. So go and subscribe to mentellect Patreon. Go down, you hit the link below. It's a whole bunch of things to subscribe to. So hit the link below, mentellect Patreon. Hit the link and become a subscriber. Only $15 a month. So you get the cast I do, the nightly cast. You get the bonus material and things I'm gonna drop stuff on that I can't do on YouTube, and I don't want to do it on YouTube, because YouTube, they strike your channel. They don't want you to monetize. They don't want to make a living off of that. But again, I'm trying to extend the mindset of my people and do the same thing. Also, subscribe to our Mentellect women's channel on Patreon. Mentellect, MENTELLECT, MENTELLECT. Just go down below and hit the link for the Mentellect women's channel, where you're going to hear the most advanced thinking when it comes to the movement of the future woman of tomorrow, for the American Indigenous woman, so hit Mentellect Patreon for that women's channel. Hit Mentellect Patreon for the Patreon channel. Subscribe to this, share this, support the Indigenous, the Ethnic American channel, Sister Enra Vanzetta. Support the brother Janier's, this brother named Janier, who's with our community. Support his what was his channel? The Wiseman channel. So support that. And that's all I can say. Also, become a part of the Republic of America. Go hit the link below. Well, I think we got to refresh that link, so I'm not going to tell you to hit that. because the link we hit last time, it wasn't going nowhere. So we got to refresh the Republic of America link. We need our own American indigenous community, and I'm building that. But that's it. I'll see you guys next time. What I want to close out with. I always like to close out with some music. Give me a second. I'll close out with some music because I'm a music guy. All right. And so much is going on. You know, so much is going on. I'll play. I don't know how to play. I'm hearing a lot of good music. I want to start putting together American indigenous music and whatnot. You know, we let a lot of our music and our culture go in the society. So a lot of people are now claiming our music because we let a lot of our music go. But, you know, that's going to be another thing. Sambo Contigo. Good night. Real music. Now, let me just say this. Somebody made a good comment. I'm just seeing the comments now. Yeah, ask Lamar Johnson, if all life started in Africa, then white people African too. Then why he mad when black men with white women? They African too, right? If everybody in Africa, all life started in Africa, why Lamar Johnson mad when black men be with white women? And he like white girls too. He was talking about the snow bunnies too much. They African too, right, Lamar? But, you know, whatever. Whatever. Presses you choose